Part 195. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1946. The moment the dragon scales shattered, Destined One Paul's eyes narrowed, and his pupils shrank to the size of a pinpoint. What did he see? What did he see? Dragon scales, still dragon scales. Red, white, blue, green, black, gold, silver, bronze, steel gray, pearly, translucent, purple, gold red, black red. A quick glance revealed at least 20 or 30 dragon scales in 17 or 8 different colors. Some dragon scales he could recognize the race, and some dragon scales, even he couldn't recognize the race. He didn't know where the person opposite him got them from. And, this magic wave, what is it? Dragon Clan Covenant? In his long life, he had indeed seen the Dragon Covenant, more than once. From the spell fluctuations, he could recognize that it was a Dragon Covenant, but why so many? Why are there so many races gathered together? Oh God! Destined One Paul murmured subconsciously. Did I not pray before going out today, so the Lord of Light distorted the image in front of me, or was my faith so unstable that I had hallucinations? More than 10 or 20 races, 20 or 30 dragon covenants. Can anyone really get such a thing in this world? Or is what I'm seeing just an illusion? Dozens of broken dragon scales, dozens of reverberating and intertwined spell fluctuations, are they all hallucinations? You must know that a dragon covenant is generally signed with a specific person, rather than binding the bloodline of a certain family. If this thing is not initiated by the signer, the dragon clan will not respond. In other words, these dozens of dragon covenants were all obtained by the little guy in front of me who was not yet a legend yet? Destined One Paul's worldview was shaken and he doubted his life. Baebo glanced at the dragon covenants from a distance, his mind was buzzing, and he instantly had the urge to kill him. Little Greet, I know you were forced into a hurry, so you broke out so many dragon covenants at once. I also know that the effect of something like the dragon covenant, smashed out at once, is actually much better than keeping it one by one. But, have you considered this? A dragon clan covenant is a spatial coordinate, and the dragon clan relies on this coordinate to teleport here. Dozens of dragon covenants are scattered around, they are very handsome, the visual effects are so good, they are almost explosive. But little Gretel, do you feel that these dragon covenants are too closely arranged? Even if you break out of the area blocked by Lord Destiny, rush to the periphery of the White Mask, and rush to the range where information can be transmitted and space transmission can be carried out, there is still a small detail issue. With so many dragon covenants crowded together, those giant dragons can't squeeze through. I can't get through. I can't get through. On the Sky Dragon City side, there were more than one young dragon jumping anxiously. The dragon scales shattered, and the Dragon Clan Covenant was activated. According to the requirements of the Covenant, the contracting parties need to go over immediately for support. However, the space channel cannot be opened, and cannot be opened. If you can't open it, you won't be able to get through. If you can't get through, if you breach the contract within the time limit, the consequences will be serious. Elder, a group of giant dragons rose from all directions and flew towards the treatment center, flying towards Elder Batista who was busy in the treatment center. Elder Silver Dragon is a third-level legend. He is old, well-informed, and has a close relationship with Gretel. If you have anything to do, come to him, that's right. Before flying through one-third of the dragon city in the sky, from a distance, a giant silver dragon was seen rising up, spreading its body, and pounced on the huge flower in the center of the dragon city. Soon, in the huge building used by the legendary dragons for meetings, discussions, and control of the center of the Sky Dragon City, a high or low dragon roar could be heard. My dragon covenant has been activated. Mine started too. Little Gretel is calling for help. Wait, how many did he call? There are only 3 here. There are also those who are fighting outside the world barrier, and those children who have not yet reached the legend, and those who are patrolling the surrounding nodes. I guess there are about 10 or so, right? He won't smash out all the dragon alliances, right? How many dragon alliances did he save when he left Dragon Island? Not sure, there should be 30 or 40. Elder Batista was not sure, mainly because Gretel's business was very prosperous and he accepted using the Dragon Covenant to pay off debts. For the dragons, it was great not to have to pay cash, and most dragons were willing. And the work efficiency is extremely high. The fastest one is 1 order in a day or 2, and the slow one is 1 order every few days. After a few years, it's really trivial to save dozens of them. No, the key question now is not this. The key is, he smashed dozens of dragon covenants and went out. What happened to him? Have you encountered a big crisis? Whether it's a big crisis or something else, we have to get over there quickly. I can't teleport now. It seems that too many dragon covenants are activated at once. The space teleportation interferes with each other and cannot be opened. How to do? When Little Greet encounters such danger, we must rush over quickly. Whoever is best at space magic can quickly help locate it. Yes. Speed up. Can the mysterious locks from Sky Dragon City help dash? Calling everyone together, let's go together. If there is any difficulty, the more dragons that go, the easier it will be handled. If there are 10 or 8 dragons, the other party will probably kneel down before they can take action. That's right. Open the space channel wider. Those who are fighting outside must also tell them that they need to adjust their defenses. Ask the Lord of Thunder if you want to go together. I won't inform him of this matter. He's going crazy. The roar of the dragon echoed. Several 2nd and 3rd level legendary dragons performed their own duties. Some joined forces to cast spells, and some were busy flying into the sky to notify the dragons outside the world barrier. At the same time, dragons roared outside the hall, and the dragons under the legend, adult dragons and mature dragons, swarmed in. Our dragon covenant has also been activated. Take us with you. Fly from here, your wings will be broken. The space teleportation must take us with you. If I go there this time, my debt will be paid off completely. Elder Batista was both angry and amused. But it was too late to rebuke at this time. He could only turn his head and focus all his energy on casting spells. Space channel, open it. Open it. Open it quickly. Little Greet didn't know what kind of danger he encountered, which made him break out so many dragon covenants, but at this time, the sooner the dragons, especially the legendary dragons, arrived, the safer he would be. Whether the dragon clan, especially the legendary dragon, can have a large number of descendants in the future depends entirely on Little Gretel. A group of legendary dragons worked together to cast spells, and in the center of the hall, the door to space gradually expanded and opened. The size of a fist, the size of a cantaloupe, half a person tall, a person tall. It's almost, I can already see the scene on the other side through the ripples of space. If you get bigger, you can cross it. Everyone, line up. Line up. Come one by one, starting with the legend. Mr. Steel Dragon Bastos, will you be the first? Ken. The legendary steel dragon strode to the front of the door of space. His body suddenly shrank, changing from dragon form to human form, and walked towards the undulating door. Before he could reach the door, the space door suddenly emitted a burst of white light and shook violently. The giant dragon responsible for maintaining space teleportation screamed. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The gate of space is under attack. Who is so strong? It's a legend. It's a legend of the glorious Holy See. The third level of legend. Who can help me? The seemingly thin and transparent space door that could be broken by a poke began to vibrate violently like a soap bubble. Immediately, two legendary dragons joined in the chanting, and legendary spells flew out, trying to stabilize the space door. Wait. Open it up. Go directly in dragon form, the human form is dangerous. Destined One Paul's face was serious, and he moved his fingers quickly. The lightsaber in the hands of the seraph was swung, and he kept slashing at one dragon scale after another. I'm afraid he can't kill that kid. No human being can kill him if he has such a large number of dragon covenants in his hand. If he really kills him, the glory holy city will really be able to usher in the dragon's breath. But be sure to grab it quickly. Grab it quickly and take it away quickly. Try to disrupt the surrounding space, try to prevent the dragon from teleporting over, and then quickly capture him. After capturing this prisoner, everything will be easier to negotiate later. Surrender. Those dragons can't get through, he said while resisting Burbo's attack and disrupting the space. After throwing out the dragon covenant, the naughty boy, the little silver dragon, and the elf all got back into the elf ship, fighting left and right, trying hard to escape. Although Heaven Mountain shines brightly and reaches far away, and those guys can't escape, but if he wants to capture the prisoners, he really can't do it for a while. I have disturbed the space, and they have no way to teleport. By the time they fly all the way from Dragon Island, you will be dead. If you want to save your life, don't want to die, and don't want the people around you to die for you, surrender quickly. Oh, he can't die, a lazy voice suddenly broke in. Destined One Paul suddenly turned around and saw a gray-black dragon suspended in the air, with golden eyes staring at him, looking up and down. Without any warning or fluctuation, it appeared on the sea surface, spreading its wings and floating in the air. Even with the spiritual power of the legendary third level, I didn't realize where the giant dragon came from. I said he couldn't die, so he couldn't die. The dragon stared at Lord Destiny for a few times, then turned his head and looked at the elf ship. Little Greet, come out. Let me see clearly. When did you come? How did you come here? Destined One Paul finally shouted. Before he finished speaking, a space door opened in the void, and giant dragons rushed out of the light door, setting off a storm on the sea. I'm coming too. I'm coming too. Little Greet, we are here to support you. Who bullied you? Is it the guy in white robe across from you? Just tell me and I'll burn him with dragon's breath. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1947. Scarlacy will be rewarded with more rewards. A giant dragon. 2 giant dragons. 3 giant dragons. A legendary dragon. 2 legendary dragons. 3 legendary dragons. Destined One Paul went from surprise to shock, from shock to numbness. Really, when a giant dragon head pops up in front of you, you may be startled, you may shrink back, or you may crazily recall what characteristics this dragon has and how to fight it. And when there are more than 20 giant dragons floating in front of you, no, around you, including more than 5 legendary dragons, a normal person's mind will go blank. Destined One Paul is not a normal person, he is a legendary third level. There were 3 or 5 giant dragons that were not legendary yet, but he was really willing to go out of his way to kill them, and he was able to kill them with just one click, and then walk away leisurely. At most, the aftermath would be a bit troublesome. He could kill 3 or 5 legendary primary level dragons with all his strength, but he might get injured or something. The dragon's combat power was much stronger than that of humans at the same level. However, when the door to space opened and the first huge dragon head poked out, and when he wanted to escape, he sadly discovered. Can't run away. Teleportation is activated. Fail. The return spell is activated. Fail. Fly directly and quickly. After flying out for a while, the gray-black dragon lazily waved its claws, and Destined One Paul suddenly realized that he was back to his original place. You can't get away. The gray-black dragon stretched its neck and stared at him closely, looking up and down with great interest. Those hourglass-like pupils are sparkling. If you look at them a few more times, you will feel that there are grains of sand falling down one by one. Will the hourglass still turn over? Is there a halo around the dragon that is vaguely expanding and contracting? What race is this giant dragon, and what are its abilities? Why couldn't he run away when he waved his paw? Stand still and let me watch for a while, the gray-black dragon continued to lazily instruct. Well, it's interesting, it's quite interesting. It turns out that it was like this at the time. It turns out that the Emperor was willing to be canonized by you because you did such a thing. The Destined One, the hairs all over Paul's body stood up. What are you saying? Why are you staring at me straight back 1,000 years ago? Is this your ability? What kind of dragon are you? There is no such category in church records. He gritted his teeth, knelt down in the air, and began to pray quietly. He clasped his hands on his chest, drew the holy emblem of the Lord of Glory, and spat out each word, while the white light around him became brighter and brighter. The seven-level heaven mountain also slowly descended, enveloping him like a huge, opalescent glass. Lord, please enlighten me with a heart of prayer, touch me with your hands, and make me strong and courageous in all things. Please allow me to practice your words, experience your way, and be with you on the road to truth. Colleagues, pray, pray. Gather your own spirit, gather your own will, and harness the power of Heaven Mountain. As a third-level legend, his faith and spiritual power can call for the arrival of Heavenly Mountain even in places far away from believers and on the distant sea. Only with the presence of Heavenly Mountain can I have the confidence to fight against these giant dragons. How difficult it is to breed dragons and how precious their offspring are. As long as you put on a desperate attitude of "I'll end up together" and drag you into the water, these dragons will never push too hard. After all, the Dragon Clan Covenant is just a Dragon Clan Covenant. Theoretically, a breath of dragon breath and a clap of a claw can be regarded as fulfilling their combat obligations. There is no reason for them to fight for a human being. Destined One Paul raised his alert level to 120,000 and just wanted to escape unscathed. Tensions are rising here, but on the other side, the atmosphere has taken a big turn, from the freezing cold to the warmth of spring. Mom, this guy bullied me. The little silver dragon that first appeared, oh, I can't even say little silver dragon. The mature silver dragon was only the last step away from the legend, and its size was already huge enough. However, the way she leaned against her mother to complain coquettishly was like that of a little girl, and her voice was also burnt and crisp. He said he wanted to capture me. He attacked me. His white light Heaven Mountain and the angels on Heaven Mountain hit me so hard. He almost captured me. As she spoke, she took turns raising her left wing, right wing, and tip of her tail to show the scars on a legendary silver dragon that was similar in appearance to her, but slightly larger than her. There were several dragons surrounding the little silver dragon. The dragons roared one after another, and they kept looking at the human who smashed out a lot of dragon covenants. The human stood among a group of dragons, with his head lowered and a little at a loss. Little Gretel, you can't do it? You can't protect us, Sarah. Look, our Cyrilla, the scales on the tip of our tail are all burnt. Ouch, it's so badly injured. If that doesn't work, come back to Dragon Island. Stay there for a while and help us take care of the children. Recently, the war has eased a little, and another group of compatriots are preparing to have children. Hey, before Gretel could say anything, Cyrilla jumped up. No way. Just a small injury. Such a small injury. I don't want to go back to Dragon Island. It's so interesting to study in Nevis, and you can advance quickly. At this point, he suddenly paused, turned back into his human form, and hid behind Gretel. Among the many giant dragons around, except for Elder Batista who remained motionless, the others dispersed, leaving a circle with a radius of several hundred meters. Near the circle, the space gate fluctuated slightly, and the Lord of Thunder stepped out in one step, hanging leisurely. Looking around, I couldn't see how he was acting. He slowly took 2 steps and came to Destined One Paul. "You are the one who wants to capture my disciple." The sound spread slowly in the sea breeze. It was clear and light, without any deliberate raising of voice, nor any hint of sharpness, ferocity, or even questioning, but Greed felt his scalp numb. It's over, the teacher is angry. At this moment, there are outsiders and enemies. Kill the enemies first. When I turn around and wait for everyone to leave, I'm not sure how I'll slap myself. In this operation, I was the one who made such a big fuss because I was clamoring to go. If he hadn't insisted on going there, Cyrilla, Senior Brother, Idion, Servilia, and several other legends would not have been in danger. The glorious Holy See cannot afford to lose 4 legends, so can the Magic Council afford to lose them? The glorious Holy See doesn't want to be at odds with the elves and dragons, so does the Magic Council just want to? I hope the teacher won't whip him too hard. Even if he hangs him up and whips him, he should find a place where no one is around, so that he can at least save some face for me. Gretel imagined the worst scenario, which was to be hung up and whipped by the teacher. Destined One Paul's breath tightened. Legendary 3rd level versus Legendary 3rd level. Even though he himself is a veteran of the 3rd level of Legend, the person in front of him has been promoted to the 3rd level of Legend not many years ago, but he is not sure that he can win even if he is one-on-one. The methods of magicians have always been strange and changeable. The advancement of magicians is related to their understanding of the world. Sometimes, the newer they are, the stronger they are. Not to mention, with so many dragons gathered together, even if they don't produce any fatal blows, with this legendary 3rd level magician standing in front, they can still attack with assistance. This level is very sad today. He lowered his eyes slightly and snorted. Raising his hand, the heaven mountain that enveloped him was filled with white light, and several human figures gradually became more prominent. So what? What do you want? Kill me here? Do it. Do it here. Guess how many people I can bring to death together. Maybe none of them can be pulled. Gretel has retracted into the elven ship again, retreating under the protection of the dragons, retreating, far away from the battle circle. Cyrilla's mother and the steel dragon Bastos, 2 legendary dragons, one on the left and one on the right, accompany the elven ship, ready to defend at any time. The legendary dragons spread out in a circle, surrounding the gleaming white heaven mountain. Outside the circle, the mature dragons and adult dragons spread out layer by layer. In short, according to the current siege method, even if this guy blows himself up, the ones injured should be the dragons, and he won't drag any humans to hell. Gretel stretched his head across the cabin and looked around. On Heaven Mountain, 7 human figures slowly solidified and separated. Finally, on each level of Heavenly Mountain, there is a seraph standing, holding a sword, scales, olive branch, trumpet, scroll. The brilliance shines, and the aura is solid and powerful. They each bowed their heads and chanted in unison. Holy, holy. Every time they chanted, a white light fell on them, making their energy stronger, which was no less than the legend. Elder Batista's face was slightly solemn, and he leaned towards the Lord of Thunder. Is this about summoning the Holy Spirit? For thousands of years in the glory Holy See, countless devout believers have entered Heaven Mountain after death. The weaker ones, the souls quickly decompose and become the nourishment and foundation stone of the heavenly mountain. The stronger one, the soul can be retained for a longer period of time, constantly praising the Lord of Glory in the heavenly mountain, and contributing the power of faith to the Lord of Glory. Only the most devout, steadfast, and powerful souls who have made great contributions to the Holy See during their lifetime and have been canonized as saints by the Holy See, commemorated every year, and offered sacrifices all the time, can their souls have the possibility to become the Holy Spirit. Becoming a Holy Spirit does not mean that you can retain the memories of your lifetime, but it will most likely retain your most powerful combat skills and combat wisdom. A powerful enough cleric can summon the Holy Spirit to fight with him at a high enough price. However, like Destined One Paul, who summoned 7 Holy Spirits in one breath. Even if each Holy Spirit can only exist for 10 minutes and they go out to fight with all their strength, how many of the dragons here will perish? How seriously injured will it be? Paul. Paul. Come back quickly. During the stalemate between the two sides, the urgent call broke the tense silence. The pagans have deployed heavy troops in the Hall Strait and are suspected to be about to launch a massive attack. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1948. The Parliamentary Army is suppressing the border? Suspected of a large-scale attack. Return as soon as possible? Destined One Paul wanted to smile bitterly. Now it's not a matter of whether he returns or not, it's a matter of whether others allow him to return. In front of him is a legendary third-level mage, a group of legendary dragons, a group of giant dragons. I don't know if he can save his life. Your Excellency, the Destined One, suppressed the turbulent thoughts in his heart and prayed wholeheartedly. However, in the Cape Kingdom, on the other side of the Hall Strait, Unsullied Walker Sigifrey, who temporarily came to take charge, was also one of the top 2. The energy reaction on the other side is too strong. This is not 1 or 2 legends, at least 5 or 6 legends. The energy fluctuations are getting higher and higher. Standing here in the cathedral, he can feel the spiritual warning. Danger! Danger! Such strong energy fluctuations are constantly accumulating and pushing up. What kind of magic could it be? What type of legendary spell would it be? Not to mention that every night, the colorful lights that connect to the sky keep shining. Like light gauze, like mist, the threads are floating and changing. Even he found it thrilling to watch. Several civilians in the city already thought it was a miracle. They knelt and worshipped across the strait, praying for safety at sea, for the ship not to sink, and for catching enough fish. Those magicians, how did they do it? Your Excellency, the immortal Walker, doesn't know. What do those magicians want to do? Are we going to wipe out several cities here in one wave? Or, destroy a few churches at targeted locations? The immortal Walker doesn't know either. He only knew that if the other side came to attack, he, the few ascetics he brought, and the local clergy would never be able to stop him. Several churches on the Hall Strait have experienced wars before, and hundreds of years of accumulation have been wiped out. There are 2 cathedrals that were even razed to the ground during the war and only rebuilt after the war. Every brick and stone in the church, every table and stool, the altar, and the curtains are not impregnated with the power of faith, relying on the idols that were dismantled and transported from the glory holy city and the holy emblem on the top of the church. That little power can't stop the legendary magic. Borrow the local power of the Cape Tien Kingdom. Unsullied Walker Sigifrey's family visited the king of the Cape Kingdom and many great nobles. Every noble received him respectfully, was very polite and friendly to him, but when it came to using enough strength and family heritage to resist the Kingdom of Kent and the attack of the Magic Council, they worked hard to show their devotion to the glorious Holy See, and they also worked hard to contribute some money and some manpower. However, when it comes to the core strength, when it comes to those things that are the heritage of the family. During the Dutch War, the family was really wiped out, all the sacred objects were taken out. They are really gone. Our heavenly knight is still recovering from his injuries. Our family is also. No, no, not at all. A few 5th and 6th level bishops and 2 or 3 great knights from one family would be of no use on a battlefield like this. Totally useless. And unsullied Walker Sigifray cannot use coercion. On the one hand, the style of ascetic monks is to keep themselves clean, practice wholeheartedly, and travel around the world to soothe the sufferings of believers and spread their faith. From the day he believed in the Lord of Glory, he abided by the teachings and adhered to every word of the Lord of Glory. After advancing to the legendary level, taking the title Wujiao Walker is to praise him for being white and spotless. On the other hand, manipulating and mediating between various forces, and possibly using some gray means under the table to complete the transaction and achieve the goal, is not his strong point at all. On the other hand, the fact that the Pope sent him over at this time, instead of sending people from the Holy Knights and the Grand Inquisition, had a merciful meaning. At this moment, we must not push the nobles into panic. Walker of the Unsullied hesitated and struggled for a long time, and could only contact the personnel of the Inquisition that he was most resistant to and disgusted with, hoping to obtain information from them. The Inquisition was indeed very powerful and quickly received the news. "Frederick, please be quiet, we don't want to be your enemy. As long as you stay quietly for this period of time, we will release you safely. Guanghui testifies that as long as you don't do anything, we won't hurt you at all." "Why, have you stopped? Can't take action anymore?" "White Wolf William, Big Bear Albury, your faith has wavered and you have embraced heretics. The Holy See has been furious and is about to impose divine punishment. The Pope is merciful and has sent me to give you one last chance to change the head of the family and repent to the Holy See, otherwise, the entire Ascan family will be destroyed." "Yes, we are coerced by the Holy See. Cardinal Adams came with an order from the Holy See, asking us to fight against our Lord. As early as 5 or 6 years ago, the Holy See began to contact me. They provided potions, provided guidance, and helped me advance. The price was to make me the head of the Ascan family. Each sound, each image, even a series of hands-on records. Every person, every face, every slash of sword light, and every prayer are all described in detail. It's so detailed that the immortal Walker only needs to take a look at it to know that it is real, and that it must be a record of the real situation. Lord." Unsullied Walker Sigifray knelt down in front of the icon and could not stand up for a long time. The holy light on the body keeps shaking and trembling. "Lord, there are wolves among your shepherds, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed. There is nothing concealed that will not be exposed. Dividing the spoils with thieves hates your own life. When did the Holy See become like this? Use deception, trickery, and force to violate the Lord's teachings, to take away people's legitimate wealth, and to violate the covenant between the church and the local lords. The Lord said, 'Let what belongs to the king of the earth belong to the king of the earth, and what belongs to God belong to God.' But the Holy See, what they want is for the power, wealth, and everything on earth to be under the control of the Holy See. If these messages, these records, were conveyed to every lord, to every noble, would they believe it? Will they be at odds with the Holy See and defy the Holy See? They will definitely believe it." Unsullied Walker Sigifray came to this conclusion without thinking at all. The Holy See has been doing this for a long time, ever since they deposed kings and canonized nobles. And the face and the heart are not in harmony, and the upper body and the lower body are contradictory. That is not the first day. If all nobles were devout and obedient to the Holy See, how could the Netherlands War fail and how could the Cape Tian Kingdom be established? We can't borrow any power from the local area. Ask for help, you must ask for help. Call the police to the Glory Holy City, call the nearby legends, and let the Pale Sword Master who went north to the Rhine Kingdom to explore the direction of Ascan's leader come back. If you spill milk on the ground, you don't have to try to let it flow back into the jug. It's true that you can solve the current problem quickly. The message of His Excellency the Unsullied Walker spread from the edge of Hall straight to the Holy City of Glory through the transmission of Heaven Mountain, and also spread to Destined One Paul, who was unfolding Heaven Mountain to confront the Dragon Clan. The moment the Holy Spirit on the heavenly mountain sent out spiritual fluctuations, Destined One Paul felt his eyes go dark. Not only is he worried, he also has many more fears than the immortal Walker. How many great nobles have seen these images? The King of the Cape Tien Kingdom? Grand Duchess of Alva? To the Duke of Lorraine? The Duke of Lower Lorraine? The 7 princes of the Rhine Kingdom? No, except for the Ascan family involved, the 6 princes? What about the lower nobles? What about those barons, those knights, those nobles who are the cornerstone of the nobility? There is a difference between doing something secretly and being exposed to the public. Let me go. He tried hard to suppress these worries and fears, concentrate his mind, and receive the power of Heaven Mountain. Let the holy power controlled by the 7 Holy Spirits be stronger and stronger. Today's matter ends here. Let me leave. I can represent the Holy See and not pursue all the events that happened in Ascan territory. William Ascan and Albury Ascan, as well as their relatives and their vassals, can return safely and continue their rule, and the Holy See will not hold them accountable. He. The Lord of Thunder sneered lightly. What kind of territory do you want to admit at this time? Do you want to pursue it now? Killing a Holy See legend, killing a 3rd-level legend of the Holy See, is much more important to the Parliament than a territory far away. He looked towards the Dragon Clan. Elder Batista was suspended in the air, blocking several juniors behind him intentionally or unintentionally, strengthening his defense layer by layer, but had no intention of attacking. The Lord of Thunder frowned slightly. Is this because you don't want to fight? Don't want to take action? If the Dragon Clan doesn't take action, or if the Dragon Clan just fulfills its obligation in the Dragon Clan Covenant and symbolically breathes out Dragon's breath, he may not be able to defeat the other party with only him as a legendary 3rd level, plus at most Burbo and Philby. You can fight and win, but if you want the other party to be unable to escape and to die here, you probably still can't do it. Moreover, he was not sure that he could guarantee the safety of all dragons during the battle. With so many giant dragons present, if they need to retreat, it will be difficult to escape. Elder, he said solemnly. Before he finished speaking, Tien Tien Mountain suddenly shot a beam of light upwards, tearing a crack in the blue sky. The cracks got bigger and bigger, and more white light came out. Finally, an old man wearing a white robe and holding a scepter stepped out of the sky. Is this going to start a war? Is the Magic Council going to start a full-scale war with the Holy See? Another papal legend. Explore and preach in different spaces, accumulate holy power, and hope to advance to the 3rd level of the demigod, the senior legend, Protector Claremont. The Lord of Thunder raised his hand to adjust his one-sided glasses. A tiny bolt of lightning shot out, crackling and filling the space 10 meters in front of him. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1949. 1 Legendary Level 3, versus 2 Legendary Level 3. We also have 3 Legendary Primary Casters. The Lord of Thunder glanced at Balba and Philby behind him, as well as Prince Rimmel, who did not dare to come forward in the elf ship, and silently counted in his heart. There is also a legendary 3rd-level dragon, a legendary 2nd-level dragon, 5 or 6 legendary dragons, and a time dragon whose level is not easy to define. Well, even if the Dragon Clan worked the entire process without contributing, and only thought about their own life safety, they should still be able to survive. Can fight. So the Lord of Thunder sneered. With a flick of his hand, a force field rolled out, pulling the elf ship far away and pushing it towards the kingdom of Kent. Go home. Children, don't get involved here. The elven ships flew out, flew out, flew out. In the sight of the Thunder Lord, it went from big to small, from tens of meters long, to a foot long, and then to an almost invisible dot. Except for Prince Rimmer, who was hanging on the spot, shrinking his head and hiding himself behind the dragons he knew, little Gretel, Sarah, and the few followers around Gretel had all left the battle. Just sink into the water and dive directly, and you can go home safely. Let the legends come to the legendary battlefield, and the children should go home safely. He breathed a sigh of relief. Before he could turn his attention back to the battlefield, a huge wave suddenly rose up on the sea in the distance, throwing the elf ship high into the air. Huge waves rolled up the ship, and it returned to the battlefield in just an instant. On the top of the ship, there was a person standing gracefully, with his robes flying, and a colorful halo surrounding him. The elf ship was shrouded in a halo, its edges slightly blurred, and at first glance, it seemed as if it would disappear at any time. Why rush them away? The man had a white beard and white hair, a ruddy complexion, and he spoke with great energy. He flew close and casually hooked Gretel out of the cabin, floating next to him. "Christine, you are too worried about your apprentice. It's a rare big scene, it doesn't matter if he sees it." The Lord of Thunder's cheeks tensed slightly. Look at the young apprentice, and then look at the confident and natural speaker. After all, he didn't directly spray him back or grab the person, but bowed slightly. "Sir Wilson, are you here in person?" "Why are you still calling me Your Excellency?" The visitor waved his hand impatiently. "How long have you been a legend?" Your Excellency, then should I call you Your Excellency?" "Your Excellency the Lord of Thunder, Your Excellency the Crown of the Sun, and this one." He turned to look at Philby, stared hard for a few times, frowned, and thought hard. After thinking for a while, I couldn't figure it out and shrugged angrily. "What exactly is your title?" "It's been a few years, has it been finalized yet?" "In fact, it has already been decided." However, seeing this person talking to the teacher with a bit of a yin and yang attitude, a bit deliberately looking for trouble, and the teacher being respectful, it was obviously impossible for Philby to report her title. She was respectful, raised her robe, and knelt down to salute. "Your Excellency Destroyer, thank you for traveling thousands of miles to come to our aid." "Call." Gretel relaxed everything from his shoulders to his spine, to his lumbar spine and tail vertebrae. Being inexplicably captured from the ancient tree, his whole body tensed up. If he turned into a bear form or a leopard form at this moment, he could see all the hairs exploding into a fluffy ball. Speaking of the Destroyer, he knew this person. This is an old man of the plasticity department. Before the Lord of Thunder became a legend, he represented the plasticity department and sat in the Tower of Babel for a long time. As soon as the Lord of Thunder returned, he threw away the mission and ran to another space without looking back. When he ran away, he was at the second level of legend. News came from decades ago that he was promoted to the third level of legend. Level 3. To third level. The Lord of Thunder majors in the direction of thunder and lightning, and this Lord of Nirvana is a dual practitioner of ice and fire. The freezing of ice, the burning of fire, any direction can directly lead to disappearance, complete, nothing left. The title Destroyer is a throne piled up with corpses, no, piles of ashes without even corpses. In terms of record, this one is much more brilliant than the Lord of Thunder. Of course I'm coming back. The old boy was fighting with me and suddenly ran away. Destroyer Wilson raised his eyelids and looked at the third-level legend of the Vatican in the distance. Protector K. Lamont glanced coldly. Of course I want to come and see what kind of evil he is doing. If you don't pay close attention, who knows if he will bully our younger generation. In other words, these two people are facing each other in a different space, either occupying a piece of land for development, or working hard to spread their beliefs and occupy resources. When one runs away, the other has to catch up quickly. Keep the balance of combat power. He must not be allowed to run away somewhere, kill a legend of his own, and then come back leisurely. So now, the scene becomes 2 legendary 3rd level, against 2 legendary 3rd level, and then we have dragons to help out. Greet looked left and right, completely relaxed. He moved a step to the side to give himself a better view, and even secretly looked behind. Why did you only take yourself out? And Sarala? Your Excellency, the Nirvana Master, no, he may be the senior uncle, or something similar. No matter what, can you please help me and give Sarala a good position? Thinking like this crazily in his heart, Gretel could only secretly glance at the annihilator from the corner of his eyes, not daring to say a word. I have no choice, I am not familiar with it, and I am not like a teacher. If I have any ideas, I can directly make a request. Alas, it would be great if someone could help say a word, he can exchange. For example, the essence of temperature is the movement of atoms. The higher the temperature, the faster the movement of atoms. This can be determined by observing the movement of atoms at extremely low temperatures. Such knowledge, or even suggestions, should be able to exchange His Excellency Annihilator's help and allow Sarala to safely observe the battle at a close distance, right? Boy, what did you just say? Go back and tell me in detail. Lord Annihilator suddenly turned back, his eyes like cold lightning passing over Gretel. Who do you want to come out to watch the battle? Sarala. Sarala, Greet nodded vigorously. There was a glimmer of light in Lord Annihilator's eyes, and Gretel almost thought that he blinked at himself quickly and whistled. That little girl, right? You have good eyesight. Boy, at a young age, you have to seize the time and fall in love with the best girl. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to grab a handful. There was a fluctuation in the void, and Sarala had already appeared in front of him. Behind him, the elf ship stretched out countless branches, waving and lashing wildly, looking impotent and furious. Gretel estimated that Servilia was probably shouting, "You caught me again. You arrested someone again. You grabbed someone from my body again. I hate it so much." Greet looked away guiltily, took a step forward, took Sarah's hand, and squeezed it hard. The silver dragon girl's eyes were a little bright and worried, and she leaned closer to him. In the void, Destroyer Wilson had already taken a few steps forward. He and the Lord of Thunder were at each other's horns, and he and Elder Batista formed a triangle, surrounding the 2 third-level legends of the Holy See. The 4 people were facing each other from a distance, and the fluctuations of their spells were like stormy waves, one wave higher than the other. Sarala was a little frightened even when she was standing in the protective circle. Will there be a fight? There will be a fight soon, right? I don't think so. Greet opened the telepathic connection and communicated with her carefully. Although within the protection circle of the legendary 3rd level, speaking with a spiritual connection is no different from speaking loudly in other people's ears, but at least you should respect the legendary 3rd level opposite, right? Oh? Why? Sarah expressed joy in one part and sorrow in the other. Fortunately, there won't be a fight, and both sides won't attack with all their strength. Then, her mother, her relatives, and the dragons of the same race won't be involved in the war, won't be injured or even die. Worry is also here. Don't fight? Don't want to fight? It's rare to have such a comparison of strength. If everyone works hard and kills the legendary 3rd level opponent, the advantage will be expanded. The annoying Holy Sea of Glory, the annoying people with white light on their bodies, it's best to get rid of them all. There are too many people, 4 legendary 3rd levels, plus the dragons, there are too many variables in the fight. Gretel frowned. 4 legendary 3rd level battles, 2v2 all-out battle, anything can happen. Whether it's the teacher or the Lord of Annihilation, they hope to be as safe as possible, with as few deaths and injuries as possible. Especially in this fight, it's really hard to say how many dragons who have not reached the legendary level will die. And what about the other party? Gretel didn't believe that the other party was willing to fight them hastily at such a disadvantageous place. "Let us go." After a moment of silence, Destined One Paul spoke again. "The promise I just made is still valid. The lords of the Ascan territory can continue their rule, and the Holy See will not pursue the past. If this is not agreed, then we can only go to war with all our strength." Ascan Collar. Destroyer Wilson looked at the Lord of Thunder, and the Lord of Thunder looked at his disciple. For a moment, Greet, who was irritated by several glances, had to pull twice and forced himself forward. "It seems that the Lord of the Ascan territory has the final say on matters concerning the Ascan territory, that..." A big hand in the void appeared, reached out and fished it out, and the ancient elf tree was fished to the side of the battlefield from thousands of meters away. The ship unfolded, and White Wolf William and Big Bear Albury walked to the side of the ship. "The Holy See won't pursue it? Then, can we ask for some protection?" "What guarantee?" "We hope that the Magic Council can openly build a magic tower in the Ascan territory to keep magicians." White Wolf William shouted out loudly. "Otherwise, we cannot believe that the Holy See will not take action against the Ascan territory, whether publicly or privately." "Never. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1950. Boom. Click. A bolt of thunder struck down, causing Gretel to stagger. This is of course impossible. With the Lord of Thunder present, no thunder and lightning can cause trouble. However, White Wolf William Ascan's declaration was like a huge thunder in the field, and the air within a kilometer radius instantly solidified. "Let the Magic Council build a mage tower in the old world? Let the Magic Council build a mage tower in the noble territory under the rule of the glorious Holy See? No way." Asylum Clement shouted out reflexively. "The beard and hair are spread out, and the white light around me is stretching and pulsing, shining and beating. How many years did it take for the glory Holy See, with generations of priests, paladins, and ascetic monks coming one after another, to drive other forces out of the mainland and establish the unique status of the Holy See? Under the throne of the glorious Holy City, there are countless sacrifices and bones, those of the Holy See, those of devout believers, those who were beheaded, burned, and beaten into demons, heretics, and those of various foreign races. Now, when we talk about building a mage tower, we just build a mage tower. Have you asked the current Vatican? Have you asked the heroic spirits of the past? Have you asked the countless holy spirits in Paradise Mountain? Absolutely impossible. This is rebellion. This is blasphemy. The day the Mage Tower is built is the day the Holy See sends troops to the Ascan territory to completely annihilate it. When the legendary third level was angry, the whole world was in turmoil, and the power of faith turned into white flames, rising and floating. White Wolf William Ascan's face turned pale, he clung to the side of the ship to support his body, and still insisted on shouting. "If you don't build a mage tower, as the Holy See does, they say they won't pursue it, but in fact they still want to pursue it. Rather than letting you kill them secretly, it's better to have a big one with great force. If the people of the Ascan family were afraid of death, they would not have come to the northern border in the first place." Asylum Clement was still full of anger. Destined One Paul had a solemn expression, staring at the elf ship without saying a word. "Times have changed, the situation is constantly changing, and the original rules are constantly changing. 1,000 years ago, before he was canonized as emperor, the rule that all kings must be crowned by the Holy See was not established, was it? What does the council think?" He suddenly raised his head and asked. With a flick of the eye, the eyes of everyone present and all the dragons were scanning the two legendary mages. "The Ascan territory wants to build a mage tower. Have you asked the council? Would the council be willing to build a mage tower there? Is there any magician willing to go and station here? Are there any magicians willing to take the risk of being annihilated by the glorious Holy See army, or being secretly killed by the Holy See, to garrison the Mage Tower? The two legendary third-level magicians looked at each other. The Lord of Thunder lowered his eyes slightly and signaled, "Please go first." Destroyer Wilson looked up and smiled, then suddenly turned his head. "Little Greet, what do you think?" "Ah." Greet was eating melon and watching the show in the back. After watching it for a long time, he was suddenly carried out again and flew in front of the two legends with a whoosh. He was dazed for a moment, endured the threatening feeling piercing his back, and said honestly, "Is this decided by the legends?" "It doesn't take a legend, or a few legends, to make the decision. It is estimated that a legendary meeting must be started and a decision must be made after full discussion and consensus, right? I am a little mage who has not even reached the primary level of legend. Am I qualified to express my opinion? It doesn't matter if you talk about it. Just talk about it." Destroyer Wilson smiled playfully. Although he has been in another time and space for nearly 100 years, he has been tracking the progress of the Parliament and has a very good impression of little Gretel. This kid has brought several legends to the council even before he even became a legend himself. 3, 4, 5, and 6 new legends, including Christine's advanced legendary level 3, are all related to this child. Whether based on his contribution or his influence on these legends, little Gretel is qualified to speak at the legend meeting. Not to mention, the words the child was chanting in his heart just now gave him a great inspiration. Although he hasn't had time to do the experiment, his spirituality is already roaring. This sentence is useful to you. It is of great use. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You'll be able to advance sooner or later anyway. So what's the big deal if you speak earlier? Speak. Speak boldly. Well. Gretel turned his head and looked at the teacher who had a calm and inscrutable expression, looked at senior brother Burbo who was still frightened and looked at him with a worried face, and then looked at White Wolf who was holding the side of the boat and looking up at him. "William." The two old men stood side by side. When they saw themselves looking over, they lowered their heads at the same time and avoided their gazes. "Don't you want to drag me into it? Want the support of the council without putting me in harm's way?" Gretel lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then, he asked Destroyer Wilson in a low voice. "Instead of building a mage tower, is it okay to build something else?" "How to say?" "For example, building a hospital, a medical clinic, to benefit the surrounding people, of course, because some examinations and treatment projects are particularly difficult, a strong energy supply is required, and tower spirits are required to assist in calculations. In other words, we still build a mage tower, but change the name to a hospital? The magicians stationed in the mage tower are not called magicians, but are called healers, maybe they are also called researchers? Anyway, if the hospital wants to expand its influence, in addition to the therapists who face the patients, there are also a group of people who need to study behind the scenes. Good guy, this is a good idea. With this name, it is estimated that not only the Ascan territory, but also other noble territories on the mainland will rush to build the Mage Tower. Who doesn't want someone to help remove the calcification of the heart blood vessels, remove the lipid deposits in the large blood vessels, make the heart strong again, and restore the elasticity of the blood vessels? Who doesn't want to get rid of all kinds of chronic diseases, regain vitality, and be able to challenge the great knights, sky knights, and legends again, or at least be able to live a little easier? The glorious Holy See? The glorious Holy See can also learn this kind of treatment method. All of Gretel's papers, one by one, are published in Arcane and Magic. Oh, and recently they were published in Life. They never stop people study. In fact, in his Oak Grove Hospital, there are now priests from the glorious Holy See studying there. Although they are from the Justification by Faith sect, they want to come here to study. Destroyer Wilson smiled slightly. He raised his hand, and from a distance, Gretel felt himself being tapped on the shoulder. He turned his head, and a mage's hand was quietly released. You are right. After saying this, he suddenly raised his voice, and a long gust of wind echoed on the sea, sending his voice far away. As to whether a mage tower can be built in the old continent, the Magic Council has some different opinions. It just so happens that the Hall Strait side is also asking for help. Come on, how about we go there together and take a look? Go there together? A 3-on-3, 4-on-4, many-on-many melee? The two Vatican legends looked at each other with serious expressions on their faces. The possibility of a melee is unlikely. Neither the Holy See nor the Parliament can afford an all-out war and the loss of all legends at once. So, we just want to sit down and talk. Friends from the Dragon Clan, how about we go over together to witness it? The Lord of Thunder smiled and nodded to Elder Batista. Before the elder could reply, the ethereal voice of Time Dragon Sains resounded across the sea. Okay, I'll go. Are you going too? Even you were alarmed. So, something big will really happen next, maybe even a turning point in history. Several legends heard their passionate and surging heartbeats. It is not an accident that things have come to this point, but the result of repeated deductions from legendary meetings. In preparation for the current situation, MRS Ender made repeated predictions and watched the stars for several nights. For the current situation, philosophers Rose MS Almeida mobilized all the power at hand to send the images of the Iskancaller incident to every great noble she could come into contact with. For this reason, she lost her life. A lot of secrets. For the current situation, Light Chaser Ragnar has created 5 or 6 legendary momentum in Hall Strait. Also for the current situation, Dark Blue Song MS Helena and Jade Crown Mr. Ripley teamed up to control Igor's mystery lock, open the door to space, and be ready to take back the legends in different spaces at any time. Whether to start a war or not is another matter. It is definitely necessary to adopt a posture of going to war with all strength and give the glorious Holy See the greatest sense of oppression. Going to Hall Strait. Just go. Destined One Paul breathed a sigh of relief, turned first, and flew southwest. It's a good thing that the Parliament is willing to talk. At least, they won't fall here. If another legendary third-level person falls, if it cannot be redeemed, it will be a heavy loss that the Holy See cannot bear. Several streams of light drew out long lines and shot toward the southwest quickly. Destined One Paul gathered a ball of white light, protected Clement himself stood on top of the white light without any effort, bowed his head in prayer, and quickly contacted the Glory Holy City. The same goes for the Magic Council. Destroyer Wilson put his hands in his pockets, drifted forward with the wind, and ran shoulder to shoulder with the two legends of the Holy See. The Lord of Thunder was surrounded by a ball of lightning, and radio waves were constantly emitted, obviously communicating with the Parliament. As for Greet and the rest of the bunch, the Lord of Thunder waved gently, and they entered the demi-plane of the Lord of Thunder obediently, and were carried by him to fly, so as not to slow down the big boss's schedule. Okay, you all go back, Elder Batista said warmly. He murmured the incantation, and the space gate on the sea expanded further, and the dragons returned one by one. Only the Time Dragon floats beside it leisurely. Leave me alone, I'm definitely going to see the scene. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1951. Monthly ticket adds 1 update. Storms and clouds are gathering. If you had a pair of spiritual eyes, at this moment, looking down from the zenith of the mainland, you would probably see dozens of extremely powerful spiritual beings converging in the direction of Hall Strait. The legends of the glorious Holy See surged in from east to west, drawing two long white tracks on the earth. Those who are close can hurry up, ride horses, ride on creatures summoned by various divine spells, or run wildly with their legs wide open. If you are far away, you have to use teleportation, or simply enter a different space and then jump from the different space. In short, with destined one Mr. Paul here, the projection of heavenly mountain he summoned can become a stable anchor point for jumping. The Magic Council is similar. Leave those who look after the house, leave those who guard the strategic locations, and then, come. Come here quickly. For such an important meeting, you must be there decisively. Only with enough people and enough legends can we show enough power and gain an advantageous position in negotiations. Legend, legend, legend. Gretel followed the Lord of Thunder closely, looking left and right, terrified. In this venue, on the center line of the hall straight, magicians summoned undersea lava, which quickly erupted and raised a small island in the middle of the sea. Even-handed, neither left nor right, situated exactly in the middle. At this moment, the lava is cold, but the powerful reverberation of magical power still echoes around the island. This is a demonstration. An obvious demonstration. The Magic Council can release such a large-scale terrain spell at this juncture, which means that they are fully capable. It is not a problem for them to waste a few of such legendary magic. In this meeting, in the Kingdom of Kent, the Holy See did not agree. I want to put it in the old continent, the Magic Council, and I don't want to go to the other side's territory. After a compromise between the two parties, they finally settled on this place. Powerful spell fluctuations stung Gretel's mental power every moment. What stung him even more was the overwhelming pressure around him. Even if the venue has been specially smoothed with magic, if you place a small ball anywhere, it will not roll. It will feel like 1 foot is high and 1 foot is low. From east to west, from south to north, at a glance in any direction, there are 10 or 8 legends. The legendary magician, the legendary elder of the natural god church, the god of war temples. Well, just looking at the appearance, you can't tell whether he is a legendary warrior or a legendary priest, and the legendary priest of the Fountain Temple. Unmentioned, these are all allies of the Magic Council. The royal family's Thundering Sword Master and several unfamiliar sword masters also stood in the ranks of their own legends, chatting and laughing quietly. He should be the sword master of several noble families in the Kingdom of Kent. There are so many legends, have they all come? When they get here, they really feel like legends. What? It's nothing. Gretel quickly shrank his neck. I feel that legends are so worthless. It's hard to see even one in normal times, but now there are so many out at once. Of course I can't say this. He had no choice but to shut his mouth and continue to look to the side. On the left, the two dragons, Time Dragon Sains and Elder Batista, occupied a large open space, and no one came to join them. The grey-black dragon was lying on the ground, its eyes half open and half closed, and it looked like it was not interested in anything. Greet guessed that this was because the show had not yet begun. The silver-haired old man who has transformed into a human form is holding a long staff as tall as a person in his hand. The head of the staff is shining with 17 or 8 patterns. Each pattern exudes the surging dragon power. No need to ask, they are all transfer positions left by the legendary dragon. Look directly at the scene through the dragon scales embedded on the head of the staff. Listen directly to the live sound. If you have an idea, you can directly transmit the sound through the dragon scales. By the way, although these dragon scales are relatively thin and cannot carry strong power, they can still do it with one attack. In short, it is to represent our dragon clan and convey our will and strength at the meeting site. Although the dragon clan has been living in seclusion for a long time, they are not easily bullied. That kind of thing happened out of nowhere, and someone formed a team to kill the dragon. The dragon clan doesn't want to happen again. On the right, a cedar with green branches and leaves spreads out and occupies the entire direction. Under the cedar, the elf princess Norrel stood ying-ying, with two elf legends standing beside her on the left and right. What is more eye-catching than them is the layer of faint silver light that spreads all over the cedar branches and leaves. The silver light flows, and even if the scorching sun is in the sky, it can't suppress the clean and gentle light. A full moon even condenses on the tree tops. There is no doubt that this is the projection of Lady Silvery Moon's power. Gretel even had reason to believe that the legends of the elves, including the Elf Queen, were overlooking the venue behind the full moon, ready to participate in the discussion at any time. There are so many people coming. Greet looked left and right, dizzy. The Lord of Thunder glanced at him leisurely. A lot of. Not many. Many people haven't arrived yet. Greet looked at it for a long time and sighed. There are still many people, or in other words, many forces who have not arrived. Very many. For example, the vampires. Prince Rimmel asked him if he could ask a senior vampire prince or vampire demigod to pay attention to this place. Gretel couldn't make the decision himself, so he asked him to ask the teacher. Now it seems that he has hit a hard wall. Bernard stood quietly at the back of the venue. He was the only barbarian in the entire venue. Those clan leaders, elders, and other high-ranking people, sorry, none of them are here. Dwarves and orcs are even more missing. As for the indigenous people in the overseas New World, whether they live in tribes or already have kingdoms, whether the tribal gods are totem beasts of the 18th or 19th level, or demigods who transcend legends. In short, it's none of their business. Is this negotiation unimportant? If you want to say it's not important, just look at the stars on the opposite side, all twinkling. The legends of the Brolin Kingdom, the Rhine Kingdom, and the Capet Kingdom all rushed over and squeezed into the venue. Even if you don't have the right to speak, you must send someone to the scene and send someone to listen to what is being said here. If you don't attend the meeting, who knows what agreement can be reached at the legendary meeting? Will you sell yourself out? However, no one notified them and no one provided them with a channel to participate in negotiations. Both parties to the negotiation tacitly kicked them out of the negotiation circle. Some unpleasant memories rolled up in Gretel's mind. During a certain negotiation, a certain ambassador sat outside the venue, helplessly listening to others informing him about whose country the country's territory had been allocated to. During a certain negotiation, a certain ambassador sat outside the venue, waiting sadly and angrily for the resolution of the international conference on his country. Why are so many people here? The Pope was not present in person, but he was also thousands of miles away in the glorious holy city, overlooking the venue through Paradise Mountain. After looking around, he frowned. How come even the legend of the Kingdom of Rhine has escaped? The Magic Council has been sparing no effort in promoting this meeting in the past few days. The chief referee sat quietly on his right hand and said in a calm voice. They use the latest form of communication, what they call radio waves, to send messages endlessly. Anyone with a receiving device can't hide this message. And that kind of receiving device is not expensive at all. Who has a legendary noble at home, who can't afford it? After getting the news, who would not rush over as fast as possible? Okay, everyone who is supposed to come is here after a long period of noise, in front of the Pope, in front of the Elf Queen, in the Babel Tower, and in the Sky Dragon City. Dozens of light screens lit up at the same time, and thunderous sounds were heard. The voice of the Lord. Let's get straight to the point. We are gathered here because the Ascan territory is intended to be overthrown by the glorious Holy See. For this reason, the Lord requested that a mage tower be built in the territory. As he raised his hand, a light suddenly appeared, and the events that took place in Ascan territory were replayed again. Just after playing the beginning, a white light swept across, and all the images disappeared without a trace. Such rebellious and blasphemous behavior will never be allowed by the glorious Holy See. Even though the image disappeared without a trace, there was a slight ripple in the entire venue. Under the rule of the Kingdom of Kent, several sword masters whispered to each other and talked softly. The Pope could see them pointing and shaking their heads at where the image disappeared. He didn't need to hear those conversations to know. The other party should be saying, "How dare you do this," or "How dare you do such a thing." If it doesn't work out well, I might add a few more sentences. What we did was too dirty. We sent out several legends, but they were all knocked down and even caught with such evidence. Oh, it is said that they were even captured alive. Looking to our side, the great nobles of Brolin Kingdom, Rhine Kingdom, and Capet Kingdom, although they did not dare to speak, were looking at each other one by one. There was a bit of contempt in his expression. And those beggars in the Netherlands. Those guys didn't even send a single sword master, but they were standing here arrogantly. They didn't even dare to shout, "This is fake." Gretel pursed her lips and complained silently. Should I say that it was thanks to the Magic Council that they made the video in advance and distributed it everywhere, so everything that needed to be distributed was distributed? It's too late to ban the broadcast now. It's completely self-defeating. Alas, without overwhelming power, we can only negotiate well. If you have overwhelming power and show it with a bag of washing powder, you can say this is a weapon of mass destruction and then launch unilateral sanctions and attacks. The principles of the glorious Holy See are not the principles of the entire world. In the center of the venue, the clear voice of the Lord of Thunder echoed leisurely. If the glorious Holy See says not aloud, no one in the whole world would dare to do it. Even the days when kings had to walk barefoot to the holy city to atone their sins have passed. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1952. Times have changed. Times have changed. Gretel clenched his fists excitedly and waved slightly. At this moment, he seemed not to be in the Hall Strait, not in the world he traveled to, or even in the era before he traveled through it. He seemed to have returned to that blazing era and heard with his own ears that deafening voice. The era when you can conquer a country by setting up a cannon on the coastline is gone forever. Yes, gone forever. Over the years, compatriots who were driven from the mainland to an island country by the glorious Holy See, who had no time to escape, and compatriots who unexpectedly awakened, were burned at the stake in batches. The remaining magicians learned from the experience and embarked on the path of analyzing the fundamental laws of the world, promoting theoretical research and exchanging knowledge, establishing a magic parliament, and cultivating their own power on the island country. Then one magician ascended to the legend, two ascended to the legend, the Tower of Babel was built, and the strength of the parliament began to expand. In the end, the 18 legends worked together to unite all forces in the Kingdom of Kent and drive the glory Holy See out of the kingdom. Then, finally, we came to today. The magicians can force the glory Holy See to convene a joint meeting of the legends to discuss the Holy See's plan to subvert the noble territory. Regardless of whether today's meeting can achieve its intended purpose, at the very least, convening such a meeting means that the glory Holy See has lost. Standing in the same venue as the Magic Council to discuss a certain issue means that the Holy See of Radiance regards the Council as an equal to itself, rather than as evils, heretics, or sinners who should be burned at the stake. Greet thought with a smile. 100 years later, if this meeting is written down in the history books, the evaluation in the books will probably be the clarion call for the Magic Council to counterattack the Holy See. The Lord of Thunder glanced at him coolly. A stream of cold water poured over his head. Gretel quickly gathered his thoughts and looked at the venue. This is just the beginning. Don't be too excited or distracted. Every subsequent sentence, every word, every change in expression, even the disputes between the two parties and every collision of forces in the venue are important information worth remembering and experiencing carefully. Especially the collision of forces. Any change in the pattern is based on changes in the balance of forces. Don't think this is just a war of words. I don't know how many strong people are fighting at the venue and outside the venue, using all their strength and courage. Ascan territory, a small group of scum of the Holy See, a small group of degenerates with wavering beliefs, have committed wrong actions against you. In the name of the Lord of Radiance and the leader of the Holy Knights, I guarantee that this kind of there won't be any more. Pale Sword Abbey Lucio took a step and swore to the sky. Above his head and around him, the white flames swayed gently, surrounding him into a halo like holy light, and then gathered up and fell on him, forming a halo of oaths and spells. During this time, he ran up and down at a high speed that he had never run in his life. First, quickly go north to Ascan territory to confirm the situation and clean up the mess. There was no mess left to deal with. The leading figures in the Ascan territory, no matter which side they were on, were all taken away by the elf ancient tree. EBI Lucio could only reluctantly ask the lower-level non-core personnel. After receiving the notice, we rushed to Hall Strait to support the large-scale attack by the Magic Council. Halfway through, I received news that the glorious Holy See and the Magic Council would hold talks in Hall Strait. For this reason, he had to return to the whole team, lead a team of high-level paladins, go around, and pick up a dozen legends. Regarding what happened in Ascan territory and everything the Glory Holy See did, he was half disapproving and half sad. However, when White Wolf William clearly called out that he wanted to build a mage tower on his territory, he still couldn't agree at all. He stood up with his sword drawn and asked loudly, "Even so, do you still want to betray the Holy See? Do you still want to go to the magician's side, and will you always betray the guidance of the Lord of Radiance?" The surging anger and surging mental power rushed over together, and even his famous pale sword ignited with fierce white flames. However, several legendary mages, led by the Lord of Thunder, snorted at the same time. The invisible force resists them, breaks them down, absorbs them, and digests them. When the mental impact came to White Wolf William, it had transformed from a fine iron hammer of tens of thousands of pounds into a strong wind. The old lord who met it head-on only shook it for a moment before calmly shouldering it. "Your guarantee? Did you know when the Holy See attacked us? Did you stop it?" He even broke away from his brother's supporting hands and took a big step forward. "Whether you knew in advance but didn't stop it, or you didn't know in advance and didn't stop it, if it happens again, can we trust that you will know in advance, can you successfully stop it, and can you protect our safety? I was unprepared before. Now I have sworn that if something like this happens again and hurts the Ascan territory and the power of the oath backfires, I will fall directly. In this way, you can trust me, right?" Gretel sighed softly. He had heard of the reputation of the Pale Sword more than once. This man was said to be innocent and upright, and would never kill innocent people with his sword. Theoretically, his reputation and his life can be used to ensure the safety of Ascan territory. And by risking his own life as a guarantee, His Excellency the Pale Sword, in addition to wanting to save the decline of the Holy See after this failed operation, also really felt deeply guilty and apologetic towards Ascan. But, the arrow is on the string and must be fired. At this point, where can there be any room for retreat? He could see clearly, and White Wolf William, a centenarian, could see even more clearly. The old man sighed deeply, made a fist with his right hand, beat his chest lightly, and lowered his head to the knight opposite. "Your Excellency Pale Sword, you are a true knight. Logically speaking, we should believe your guarantee. However, I want to ask you a question. If a lord decides on the affairs of his own territory instead of obeying the orders of the Glory Holy See, is that equivalent to betraying the Lord of Glory?" The Pale Sword lost its voice for a moment. From the perspective of justice in his heart, he really could not admit that betraying the Holy See was betraying the Lord of Glory. However, from a standpoint, he cannot openly stand on the side of justification by faith. Heresy. Beside the Pale Sword, two Holy See legends emerged. The flames of light intertwined and burst out, but in an instant, they were blocked by the magician's power. Throughout the venue, the air shook, twisted, and emitted a tragic whistling sound. The ground made of lava cracked and cracked with thin stone cracks, spreading in all directions. Amidst the roar of the wind, Time Dragon Sains turned over impatiently, and the tip of its triangular tail swayed. Opposite, a misty silver light shot out from the top of the cedar, flicked towards the center of the venue, and quietly intertwined with the power of time. Silently, the conflict of forces subsided, as if nothing had happened. White Wolf William sneered and said proudly. Gospel chapter 22, Give to the Lord what is Lord's, and give to the King what is King's. Article 51 of the Great Edict, the Pope has the power to appoint bishops to religious posts, and the Emperor has the power to appoint bishops to secular posts. Article 28 of the Golden Edict. Enough. Destined One Paul said angrily. Except that he did not catch up with the founding of the Gospel, the Great Edict was signed by him personally, and the Golden Edict was even signed by his descendants. Are these crappy things also presented to him? In short, the Holy Scriptures and Hadith, as well as the covenant between the Holy See and the nobility, have always pointed out that affairs within the territory belong to the nobility, and only faith and preaching are within the scope of the Holy See's power. White Wolf William refuted clearly word by word. To build a mage tower on the territory, or not to build a mage tower, that should be the power of the Lord, the glorious Holy See, and has no right to deprive it. There was a loud bang. The entire venue was shaking and swaying, as if this island made of volcanic lava had been cut off from the roots and began to drift with the water. This time, not only the center of the venue, but also the outer edges of the venue, the surrounding sea, and the sky above began to shake violently. In an instant, countless forces intertwined, collided, and attacked around him. The waves were turbulent, with tens of meters high waves roaring and boiling, crashing onto the coast, crashing into the land, and hitting the invisible force field around the venue, forming a blue crystal-like wall. The sky cracked open layer by layer, and colorful rays of light shot out. Behind the light, images of various mountains, cities, people, and stars appeared. From time to time, power pours out and is annihilated before it reaches the venue. Is this a fight? Is this the official start? Gretel involuntarily took 2 steps towards the teacher, his head turning left and right, dizzying. The Lord of Thunder stood proudly, the small world around him opened slightly, and infinite lightning was about to shoot out. What do you think? Suddenly, a loud and deep voice came down from the top of the venue. In the sky, 7 levels of Heaven Mountain are stacked up one after another. At the bottom of Heaven Mountain, a pair of radiant eyes opens. Are you also going to stand with Lord Ascan and ask the Lord to decide all rights in the territory, including building a mage tower? His eyes dropped. The noble legends who stood on the side of the glorious Holy See, whether they were from the Rhine Kingdom, the Brolin Kingdom, or even the previously independent Cape Kingdom, all felt their bodies sinking, as if they were carrying a heavy burden. Now, is it time to stand up? Is this a good time to step up? Is building a mage tower and siding with the Magic Council a good thing or a bad thing for nobles like us? Will it make us better off, or put us in a more dangerous situation? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1953. There was dead silence in the venue. The bishops, ascetic monks, and paladins of the glorious Holy See were approaching faintly, staring at the legends enshrined by various noble families. The legends on the side of the nobles also began to move closer to each other intentionally or unintentionally. How? Want to take action? Should we directly use force to solve it? Gretel secretly glanced at the teacher, and saw the Lord of Thunder folding his hands, with a relaxed look on his brows, completely out of theater mode. Look at Destroyer Wilson on the other side. He leaned back and was floating on the force field seat, his brows and corners of his eyes full of interest. Gretel secretly suspected that if it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have started to whistle. "Let's fight! Let's fight!" On the old continent, the nobles and the Holy See are trying their best to commit suicide. Gretel can almost imagine the mental activities of this veteran legendary third level. But of course, it is impossible to fight directly. If the old continent fights against itself, it can only make fun of and benefit the Magic Council. Moreover, Gretel did not believe that these nobles did not understand the situation, fully communicate in private, and make plans before setting off. So what are they waiting for? They haven't expressed their opinions for a long time. What are they expecting? Greed turned his brain rapidly while trying to observe the nobles on the opposite side, looking for clues from their expressions. Unlike the two lords of the Ascan territory, the nobles opposite did not have any expressions of anger, determination, or all or nothing on their faces. They were mostly thinking, evaluating, or observing the attitudes of the people around them. Well, does anyone join me in leaning toward the Magic Council and wanting to build a mage tower on their territory? It seems, no one is coming forward. The silent stalemate lasted for a long time. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No one was the first to stand up and shout, "I want to build a mage tower on my territory." However, no nobles were the first to stand up and shout, "We are loyal to the Lord of Glory, we stand wholeheartedly with the Holy See of Glory, and we will never lean towards the magicians." It's embarrassing. As for the Magic Council, no one is willing to invite them, no one is willing to provide them with territory, and it is impossible for magicians to take the initiative to build the Mage Tower. However, for the Glory Holy See, no one has expressed loyalty, and it has shown that their dominance has declined. 500 years ago, 100 years ago, these nobles would have rushed to fall in front of the legend of the Holy See and lick their boots. What's there to ask? After a while, a long chuckle sounded in the venue. Destined One Paul slowly stepped out of the crowd, glanced at his side, and faintly split into the legends on both sides, and smiled slightly. You might as well ask those magicians. If they build a magician tower, what level of magicians can they send? Can they send half-step legendaries? Or, just send a few 5th, 6th level, 3rd and 4th level magicians? With a flick of the brush, the nobles on the other side of the old continent all turned their eyes. Many people even quietly moved their steps and changed their direction, moving a little further away from the magicians and a little closer to the Glory Holy See. Just with this change, the balance of power between the two sides is obvious. Not counting the soy sauce platform, the Dragon Clan and the Elf Clan who are impossible to fight to the death, the legendary number of people in the Magic Council and the old continent alone. Basic, quite, it means that the situation of the battle cannot be established, which means that you have to take huge risks and make a big deal. Or, we can only get stuck in the current balance of power, slowly seeping through, unable to push through in one go. The Lord of Thunder and Destroyer Wilson looked at each other. His eyes were deep and filled with heartfelt admiration. The man in front of him was indeed a legend who had managed many nobles thousands of years ago and accomplished the feat of canonizing him as emperor. This question indeed gets to the point. If you want to turn to the Magic Council, there must be enough benefits. What is a mage tower? The magician in the wizard's tower, that's the point. Without a legend in charge, if the Holy See secretly stirs up trouble, can they survive with the limited manpower in these noble territories? Without a strong enough high-level magician, how much benefit can it bring to the territory? Safety. Can the sense of security brought by the presence of high-level mages offset the threat posed by the Holy See's possible secret actions? Educate. Cultivate noble children and develop their own magicians. The training cycle of a magician, how long does it take to train a person? 10 years? 20 years? 20 years is definitely not enough. Moreover, the Magic Council currently has no real strength to expand significantly. If you want to place a legend in each duchy of the old continent, you have to double the number of legends in the parliament, and then double it again. This issue really hits the weak point of the parliament. There was a moment of silence. Greet suddenly smiled and stepped forward. If we don't build a mage tower, then can we build something else? Coming. The two legendary mages didn't even have to exchange glances, let alone smile at each other. Destroyer Wilson raised his hand and used a loudspeaker for Gretel, transmitting the conversation between the two clearly to the other side. Build what? For example, build a hospital, I mean a treatment center. As a doctor in a public hospital and an emergency physician in a public hospital, Greet is always too busy and has no need to advertise for himself. However, when the situation reached this point, he could only bite the bullet and advertise his hospital like a signature doctor launched by a private hospital. Our Oak Grove Hospital currently provides a variety of special medical services, measuring blood pressure, monitoring cerebral hemorrhage and cerebral infarction, monitoring heart rate and electrocardiogram to help soldiers advance. Help 4th level warriors advance to become knights, control the risk of arrhythmias in the process of advancing to knights, and greatly reduce the advanced mortality rate. As soon as he said this, there was already a small commotion on the other side. Knights, in any noble territory, are the cornerstone of extraordinary power. Reduce advanced mortality. The benefits are amazing. If 10 warriors attack the knight level, one less person will die. This means that there is one more knight in the territory and one less loss. It takes a lot of effort to train an ordinary warrior into a knight. And Gretel's statement continues. Helping high-level warriors advance, control the risk of cerebral blood vessel bursting during the process, provide timely treatment, greatly reduce the mortality rate of advancement, and reduce the risk of paralysis, hemiplegia, numbness of hands and feet after advancement failure. As soon as these words were spoken, even pale sword Abbé Lucio couldn't help but feel shocked. No one knows better than him, the leader of the Holy Knights, how difficult and dangerous every step forward for a high-level warrior is. After advancing to the Sky Knight level, one or even many difficult, dangerous, life-or-death battles are often required before one can take another step forward. Of course, there are soldiers who simply die in battle. The safer method is to have high-level fighters practice and compete with each other, but even so, some fighters will encounter the situation that the little guy said. If there can be timely treatment, if there can be targeted treatment. Also, measure blood pressure, intracranial pressure, lower blood pressure, reduce intracranial pressure, assist the caster in meditation advancement, and control the risk of headshots and cerebral hemorrhage during advancement. Treats calcification of cardiac blood vessels, treats lipid deposition in blood vessels, and restores softness and elasticity to blood vessels. Completely cure high blood pressure, giving high-level warriors a greater chance of successfully advancing. He spoke clearly, word for word. While speaking, large blocks of text were projected into the void. The papers, texts, and images in the journal Life were exposed to everyone at the conference without any concealment. I bear witness. A loud roar caused the gravel blown by the sea breeze and the stones broken from the lava to roll on the venue. Big Bear Albury strode out. It was after I came to Oak Grove Hospital and received targeted cardiovascular treatment that I successfully broke through and advanced to level 17. Before this, my blood pressure had always been very high. Every time I wanted to pass the test, I felt dizzy and out of breath. Just because of this, I couldn't make it no matter what. Gretel nodded slightly at him, then flicked his fingers to bring up the images of the examination at that time. Before treatment, there were obvious calcification deposits and stenosis in the anterior descending coronary artery and circumflex artery of his heart, the cardiac ejection fraction, there were obvious plagues in the carotid arteries. Under strenuous exercise, they are likely to fall off and block the blood vessels. One image before treatment and one image after treatment. Comparing the two phases, everyone can see the smoothness of blood flow. With sufficient blood supply, there is a greater possibility of advancement. In addition, Oak Grove Hospital can also treat liver failure, kidney failure, diabetes, and other organic diseases in a targeted manner to save the lives of patients. With a gentle smile, Gretel clapped his hands, scattering the words and images. Light and shadow scattered dots, covering his whole body, like the starlight from the entire sky kissing his hair. Of course, you nobles may also travel thousands of miles to come to Oak Grove Hospital for treatment. However, how much more convenient is it to have a hospital at your doorstep and get the best treatment than to travel thousands of miles to queue up? Not to mention, if your life is in danger and you can't get there, having a hospital at your doorstep is like saving a life. His voice was neither fast nor slow, and he spoke eloquently. Having said this, he nodded to the nobles opposite and smiled a little wider. And to all your beloved wives and beloved daughters. The caesarean section surgery promoted by Oak Grove Hospital has reduced the mortality rate of pregnant women by more than 90%. We believe that everyone has the right to enjoy equal treatment services, regardless of high or low, rich or poor, nationality, or belief. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1954. Treat. Treat. Cure stubborn illnesses, cure terminal illnesses, improve physical fitness, and help advance. As long as they are human, they want to be healed, and they want the healer to reach out and pull them farther away from death. Any lord with a brain wants to have powerful enough treatment to protect the advancement of talents in the territory. Then, I'm sorry, many of the above services are exclusive to Oak Grove Hospital, or basically exclusive to Oak Grove Hospital. Oh, the 4th level warrior advanced knight, this business, the god of war temple is already very familiar with it. Over the years, the Temple of the Spring Goddess has also joined forces with Oak Grove Hospital to train a number of caesarean section talents. However, to join forces with these two temples, we might as well bring in the magicians. Gretel smiled and looked across. Do you want a hospital? Do you want it? The nobles were indeed moved. After a slight commotion, Munir, the Frost Sword Master of the Cape Kingdom, stepped out and said loudly. Assistant advancement. How much success rate can an ordinary warrior advance into a knight with your assistance? Or, how much mortality can be reduced? Gretel has not paid attention to this issue for a long time, leaving it all to the temple of the god of war. Fortunately, a gust of wind blew by, bringing data support from behind. In the past year, the success rate has increased by 1% compared to last year. Compared with the beginning of this project, the success rate has increased by 35%. The mortality rate has been reduced by 95% compared with the beginning of the project. In other words, out of 20 people, 19 people can be brought back from the brink of death. After they are brought back and recuperated, they can attack the knights again. Greet wanted to sigh, but turned her cheek to one side, and swallowed the breath. Why are people still dying? Was the pre-inspection not perfect? Or is the combination of defibrillation and cardiopulmonary resuscitation not good? Or maybe they were not allowed to rest regularly and were not allowed to take medicine beforehand, so they were poisoned by foxglove and could not be rescued? Young guys, with multi-pronged methods of defibrillation, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and therapy, generally speaking, should not be unable to recover. The nobles exchanged looks. The kingdom of Rhine, the kingdom of Boi, one of the 7 princes, White Eagle Ludwig took a step forward and said loudly. You said treating cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, how many have you been cured so far? What is the success rate of treatment? For this problem, Gretel didn't even need help from the sidelines. Every patient, every treatment process, every comparison of CT and MRI scans before and after treatment are stored in his meditation core, the biological computer. After pondering for a moment, he called up the detailed data. So far, 532 patients have been treated, of which 286 were treated by me, and the remaining patients were treated by other therapists at Oak Grove Hospital. The treatment effect is quite excellent, with a 100% success rate. Among all the treated patients, one has advanced to level 19, one has advanced to level 17, and 3 have advanced to level 15 so far. It's a pity that no one has advanced to legend yet. However, advancing to legend requires long-term maintenance and extremely meticulous preparations. Otherwise, as long as there is a legend to advance. What a persuasive advertisement. Even so, this kind of treatment effect has made many nobles very satisfied. Greet observed his words and continued to smile. Oak Grove Hospital is open to study and further training for any healer who is interested in dedicating himself to the medical profession. Whether you want to receive treatment or send someone to study, as long as you abide by the regulations of Oak Grove Hospital, we welcome you. Come on, send your children here, send your children with outstanding qualifications here. The Holy See of Radiance can train priests, and Oak Grove Hospital can of course train healers, right? Are the priests of the glorious Holy See also welcome? Asylum Clement asked with a stern face. I can't stand it anymore, I really can't stand it anymore. If he keeps yelling like this, the nobles from the entire continent will dare to run over and seek medical treatment every now and then. By then, the blockade of the Magic Council of the glorious Holy See will exist in name only. Rather than doing this, it is better to keep these treatment methods in the hands of one's own people. Anyway, what those nobles want is to get treatment. As long as they can get treatment, they don't care who it comes from. Of course you are welcome, Greet said seriously. As long as they are willing to devote themselves to the medical profession and are willing to abide by the healer's oath, we welcome all healers. Judging from past experience, healers of different faiths can also cooperate friendly in the hospital. By the way, healer's oath, you can take a look here first. As he spoke, he pointed to the air again, and large sections of text were projected by Silent Phantom and displayed in front of everyone. The middle paragraph is the original version, modified from the Hippocratic Oath, and must be recited by all incoming medical students. The next few paragraphs were added later, about electric defibrillation, caesarean section, cardiovascular treatment, organ regeneration, the ethics of medical research, etc. Long, very long, quite long, but no matter which paragraph, it does not involve changes in beliefs or coercion. The priests of the glorious Holy See and the nobles all looked attentively. Suddenly, a nobleman whom Gretel didn't know asked, "What facilities are needed to build a hospital? Do I need to build a mage tower? If it's just low-end treatment, such as electric shock defibrillation, to help knights advance, the mage tower is not necessary," Gretel responded. However, treatment of cardiovascular and cerebrovascular vessels and organs requires detailed scanning of these vessels and organs in advance. For this reason, we need a powerful energy source to support the scanning spell, and an intelligent center to help calculate and provide images. Therefore, auxiliary facilities are definitely needed. Then we still need to build a mage tower. Pale Sword Abbey Lucio asked rhetorically. They keep talking about building a hospital but not a mage tower. If there is a powerful energy source and a tower spirit, isn't that just a mage tower? As long as the mage tower is erected, what functions should be added to the tower next, and whether it will create a fortress that integrates offense and defense? Is it not the magicians who have the final say? Of course not. Gretel smiled and shook his finger. A hospital is a hospital, a place where diseases are treated and lives are saved. Oak Grove Hospital promises that our branches in various places will always remain neutral. The facilities in the hospital are only used for self-protection and will not participate in any active attacks. At the same time, we also hope that local lords will ensure that Oak Grove Hospital, as well as the doctors, nurses, patients, and medical researchers in the hospital, will not be attacked or harmed by any means. This. On the side of the glorious Holy See, on the side of the magicians, many legends fell silent. The Lord of Thunder quietly glanced at his young apprentice. This kid is getting more and more courageous. Without parliamentary discussion or approval from the legendary meeting, just after communicating with him in private, he dared to declare the hospital is permanently neutral. Is permanent neutrality so easy to achieve? If you don't have enough force to defend yourself, if you say you are neutral, others will ask you to be neutral. A giant tree wants to be neutral. The trunk is strong enough and the roots are deep enough. It can stand proudly without swaying. A young tree that has just grown wants to be neutral, dreaming. If the wind is strong, you must be swinging with the wind and bending with the wind. Moreover, although he and Wilson felt that it was better for the hospital to remain neutral than to clearly display the flag of the Magic Council, it did not mean that all magicians thought so. There are always some people, there are always some mage organizations, who want to reach out to the hospital, and want to turn the hospital into a bridgehead for the Magic Council to build in the old world. Destined One Paul and Protector Clement looked at each other and saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. Hospital remains permanently neutral. Huh, what neutrality? Isn't this all the tricks they have played before? When the Glory Holy See was born, it was also a healer, traveling to every noble territory, treating civilians, treating rich people, and treating nobles. With the huge reputation brought by the healer, the church's organization is spread out bit by bit. How did the Holy Knights come about? Where did the church's first armed force come from? Aren't the first ones the ones who spontaneously followed the healers and protected them? Appearing in a neutral, seemingly harmless manner, this little magician is really cunning. Moreover, such a treatment center is not easy to block. Countless nobles who hope to receive treatment services will take the initiative to invite them, and even offer them land, manpower and remuneration, rushing to get them to come. Damn it, why can't the Holy See do these treatments? Oak Grove Hospital, how many branches can it open on the mainland? While several Holy See legends were secretly communicating, Munir, the Frost Sword Master of the Cape Kingdom, had already seen the opportunity and spoke in a deep voice. The treatment center is different from the Mage Tower. Strength can be replaced by power, but life cannot be replaced. If a high-level hospital was built in the Cape Kingdom, nobles from the entire continent would flock to it. As you said before, how many hospitals can be opened on the entire continent that can treat cardiovascular and regenerative organs for high-level experts? It's best to only open one or two. In that case, I am sure to build the capital of the Cape Kingdom into a medical holy city, and let the wealth and power of the entire continent flow here. There is a door. Gretel's eyes lit up slightly. Before he could say anything, at the back right, the royal legend of the Kingdom of Kent, His Excellency Thunder Sword Master, coughed heavily. I'm afraid, we won't be able to build many hospitals in the short term. Archmage Nodmark, you have forgotten that the branch hospital in the royal capital has not been built yet. The hospitals you hope to fully roll out in all counties in the kingdom have only just begun to open. Woolen cloth. Wait, this is not part of my plan, but, Lord Thunder Sword Master, your cooperation is simply too good. Grab it. Only when you fight for something can you highlight its preciousness. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1955. Master Nordmark, you said before that medical clinics should be established in every county and every city in the kingdom. Master Nordmark, You just said that you can build a hospital here. Mage Nordmark. Mage Nordmark. Gretel took a step back, then another step. There are only so many doctors, so many high-level healers, and so many resources. Even if he works overtime and trains from now on, he won't be able to train a group of talents who can stand alone in 10 or 8 years. Those who perform electric defibrillation will only perform electric defibrillation, those who perform caesarean section will only perform caesarean section, and those who perform cardiovascular calcification elimination will not bother with anything else except cardiovascular calcification points. Moreover, if the hand shakes during the treatment, or the patient has any special situation, they have no idea what happened, and they have no idea how to save it. Everyone, be quiet. Be quiet. Gretel raised his hands and raised his voice. Sarara took a step forward at the right time, and the dragon's power exploded, sweeping in all directions. Elder Batista smiled secretly and helped her. The dragon's power, as thick as a mountain and like a sea, whizzed through the entire venue, centered on Cyrilla and Gretel. Most of the people present were legends, the worst and the worst, and they were also heavenly knights like White Wolf Ascan, who would not be swept away by Longway on the spot. However, this dragon's power was like a bucket of ice water being poured over the head. It was enough to silence the venue and make everyone listen to Greet's words. Due to the training cycle of therapists, we can't do it for the time being. Each medical center is equipped with the best therapists who can complete the latest and most effective treatments. But his voice was heavy and he suppressed the buzzing discussion that was rising again. In order to meet your treatment needs, we recommend setting up physical examination centers in various important cities to conduct pre-examinations and transmit the examination results to Nevis. In this way, we can give medical advice remotely, guide emergency first aid, and make appointments for treatment. The Great Holy See will not prevent patients who need treatment from coming to Nevis for treatment, right? The last question is directed at the legends of the Holy See. In an instant, the 4 secular electors of the Rhine Kingdom, the countless duke families of the Brolan Kingdom, and the 3 duke families of the Cape Kingdom, many legends, turned around one after another. Does the Holy See allow it? Is it allowed? The Magic Council has already made a high-profile statement. We believe that everyone has the right to enjoy equal treatment services, and regardless of nationality, they are willing to treat patients as long as they come to their door. At this time, will the glorious Holy See also allow patients to cross the sea to seek treatment, or will they prohibit the people under their jurisdiction from receiving treatment outside of the glorious Holy See in the name of blasphemy and shaking of faith? Destined One Paul took a deep breath, hid his right hand behind his back, and clenched his fist tightly. This little magician, this healer. It's so cunning. With a single word, a gap was opened between the glory Holy See and the nobles under their rule. Gretel looked on with a smile and said nothing. In the field, rustling, the legends on the noble side and the legends on the Holy See side quietly moved their positions, and gradually, naturally divided into 2 sides. Does the Holy See allow it? At the end of the stalemate, it was the royal legend of the Cape Kingdom, Frost Sword Master Munir, who led the inquiry. Ludwig, the White Eagle of the Kingdom of Rhine, silently took 2 steps sideways and got closer to him. Does the Holy See allow us, our families, and our important relatives to go to Nevis or other places for treatment when the Holy See's treatment fails to work and cannot cure the disease? No one answered. Destined One Paul and Protector Clement looked at each other and swallowed back their words of accusation. If the glory Holy See can't cure it, why don't they let others receive treatment from other sources? This is to force them to death. This is to drive his own people to others. Not to mention Pale Sword Abbey Lucio. As long as an injured warrior can be brought back and his life can be saved, he never cares about where the healing technique comes from, or in other words, which company sells the healing potion. Even he has used penicillin injections sold from the other side of the strait and pain relief equipment sold from the other side of the strait. He also secretly studied the battlefield first aid manual passed down from the God of War temple, and copied it down for his subordinates to learn. Alive. Living has everything. Only by living can we have the possibility of dedicating ourselves to the Lord of Glory. Other than that, it's all sections. However, just because they think that way doesn't mean that others will think the same way. The Archbishop of the Kingdom of Brolin, Iron Fist Armand, who rushed to Hall Strait immediately, shook his bright red robe and immediately blurted out. Has your faith been shaken? In order to survive, would you rather surrender to the evil god and accept his favor? Ahem. 5 or 6 coughs sounded simultaneously from different directions in the venue. The nature religion, the god of war temple, and the spring goddess temple expressed their dissatisfaction at the same time. Evil god. What is an evil god? Only the Lord of Glory in your family is the righteous God, and the gods we believe in are all evil gods? Do you want to start a god war to discuss this issue? Even Princess Norrell had a straight face and tapped the wooden stick in her hand hard. As a member of the royal family, the elf princess is naturally the priest of Lady Silver Moon, with divine blood flowing in her veins from generation to generation. At this moment, it was her duty to speak for her Lord God. Ms. Silver Moon's grace is far-reaching. She will show mercy, soothe the children's wounds, and heal the children's illnesses. Before the establishment of the Glory Holy See, Lady Silver Moon's brilliance had already shone on this continent. With every word he spoke, the silver light on his body lit up. Speaking of the last sentence, the top of the cedar and every needle of the cedar shone with silver light. In the venue shrouded in sunlight, a garden of silver moon was created. Even if Lady Silvery Moon comes to this world, Gretel will not find it strange. Iron Fist Armand's face darkened. Before he could argue, Elder Batista slapped his staff hard. There were more than a dozen dragon scales on the head of the staff, and at the same time, there was a bright light. The great dragon god is overlooking us. Human beings, do you want to say that except for the Lord of Glory, all other gods are evil gods, including the great dragon god? From the other side of the dragon scale, whistling, roaring, and long and short dragon roars kept coming. Iron Fist Armand knows very little about dragon language and can only recognize a few words such as kill, die, and kill. However, the power pumping and stirring on those dragon scales obviously represents at least a dozen legendary dragons. Even using these dragon scales as anchors, dragon breath or the magic of legendary dragons can directly sweep across the field. With this power, even the cardinal who rules the Brolin kingdom with an iron fist has to consider. Please forgive me. He finally faced the dragon clan, bowed slightly, then turned around and bowed to Princess Norrell. What I just said was not directed at the great races and the great gods behind you. I just said this from a human standpoint and in the human category. Princess Norrell's face darkened, neither nodding nor shaking her head. Elder Batista snorted coldly, but before he could speak, Sarala started shouting. Only targeting humans. Huh. Exclude us first, unify humans, and then use the power of all humans to attack us? This is what you did when we moved to Dragon Island. The memory of the immortal seed is so annoying. For humans, thousands of years have passed, and we can only find the truth from history, or even from scattered and deleted records. However, for immortal species, these things have only passed 2 or 3 generations, and those who experienced them back then are even still alive. Iron Fist Armand was complaining angrily in his heart. It was not easy to argue, let alone quarrel with Sarala on the spot. He just turned his gaze to the nobles under his rule, and asked again sternly and deeply. Has your faith been shaken? Is the Lord of Glory no longer benevolent to his believers? White Eagle Ludwig responded tit for tat and took a step forward. As the agent of the Lord of Glory, if he cannot save the lives of believers, won't he allow believers to use other methods to save lives and relieve pain? I remember that the teachings I learned were not like this. Oh yeah. There's a quarrel. Fight, fight, fight. Greed stood by happily, looking at the side of the glorious Holy See, where the white light surged and formed a continuous line. And the noble legends under their rule moved and gradually stood together. White, golden, ice blue, and various colors of light complemented each other. Then look at the noble legends, moving step by step, inch by inch, away from the glory Holy See and closer to the dragon clan. Gretel's eyes became brighter and brighter, even a little bit elated. Not bad. With this move, the balance of strength is completely reversed. If these nobles can stand with the legends of the Kingdom of Kent and the Magic Council, the glory Holy See must also bow its head. He coughed hard. In order to meet the treatment needs of everyone on the mainland, the Magic Council is willing to export a large number of magic instruments to the mainland, as well as treatment drugs including penicillin, streptomycin, and vaccines. We also hope that for the sake of the well-being of believers, the Holy See will not classify these products as contraband, so that they can be delivered to the widest range of people, so that people can receive better health services. How? Do you allow it? If allowed, the glorious Holy See's blockade of the Parliament would really exist in name only. Thanks to @ Black and White Wind Trace for the reward of 100 starting coins.